Hey there. I'm Dr. Josh Bondi with the Nevada Science Center. I'm the Director of Research here. I'm here with our Executive Director and Director of Education, Becky Hall. And we're going to be talking to you today from a water treatment facility that turns out to be a little bit more. So I'm going to hand it over to Becky to talk about water and sustainability in the desert.
Hi. So like Josh said, we're here in Henderson, Nevada, so southern Nevada in Clark County. We're at there's third largest body of water in southern Nevada, but it's man-made here at the bird preserve, but it's actually a water treatment plant. So in Nevada, we're the driest state in the country. The whole country, we're a big desert. Here in Las Vegas, we get about 4 inches of rain a year. We're in northern Nevada, about double that. So converted to centimeters, about 10 centimeters a year we have here in southern Nevada. So a lot of our water is very important here. And it's an important resource, and to be mindful of it, because that 4 inches, it evaporates more than it comes down. So more than 4 inches of precipitation would be evaporated. So a lot of our water comes in from different sources like the Colorado River. So here in southern Nevada, we can get our water either from groundwater pumped up with wells, or like I said, from surface water, like rivers. And here at the water treatment plant, they recycle water in order to water golf courses, roadways, or even pump it back into Lake Mead where we get our drinking water. So this is a very important resource in our where we live in the Mojave Desert. Not just for us as people getting our water and our water resources, but this has created another really cool habitat for a lot of different birds who use this as a place to live and during their migration. So a little special, you want to talk about the birds here?
Sure.
So here at the preserve, it's also, or at the water treatment plant, it's also a bird preserve.
Right. So this facility was actually built over 50 years ago to treat water from the city of Henderson. So people flush the toilet, they do their dishes, the water goes down the sink. Where does that water go? In the city of Henderson, which is the second biggest city in the state of Nevada, that water comes here. And so it gets treated. And like Becky said, it gets repurposed and reused because, again, we're in a desert, so we have to be mindful of how we use our water resources. So 50 years ago, again, like Becky said, the third biggest body of water in southern Nevada is this man-made oasis. And one of the side effects of that is that water's not just important to people, it's also important to birds. And so birds started using this facility as a stopping point on their migration routes. It's starting to rain here, so we're talking about water in the desert. It happens to be one of the few days that we actually get precipitation here.
It's really rare. So we were watching the forecast for this field trip today, and we're like, we were supposed to get thunderclouds at this time. So it's right now it's drizzling here. But yes, go ahead.
So there's a number of birds that utilize this area here on the very edge of the city of Henderson. Either they live here year round, so they're called resident birds. So those could be birds like the famous roadrunner. So those run around here, as a matter of fact. And there's also migratory birds. And so this is on the edge of what's called the East Pacific Flyway, which is a major migration corridor for birds, especially water birds, that are migrating either from South America north or from the Arctic to the south. And so migration is just a seasonal movement of animals. So it could be mammals. It could, if you think of herds of caribou or herds of wildebeest, if you watch nature specials, making their way seasonally back and forth. Birds do the same thing. And as paleontologists have to throw in the dinosaur tidbit, there's actually evidence dinosaurs migrated as well. And birds being dinosaurs, of course they migrated.
Of course we came out to see modern dinosaurs.
Right. And so if you want to see some of the paths or some of these stereotypical migration routes that birds take, think of the American robin. So if you're not from North America, this is a really common bird. It looks like a little black bird with a really brilliant red chest on it and a little yellow beak. So these are really common birds around almost every single part of North America, but they migrate also seasonally. So you can see the birds, the purple colors are the concentrations of birds. So how many of them there are. So you can see during the summer months, they go up into the Arctic. And then during the winter months, they move back south into the lower 48 of the United States. So this is their migration route. And so we actually see them seasonally come in and out of Nevada. All right, thank you for that, Mr. Krauss. So here we are, again, at the edge of this major migration route here on the western edge of North America. over 270 species of birds have been observed coming through this area. So anywhere from pelicans, bald eagles, which is our national bird, golden eagles, and almost every type of shorebird you can think of. So behind us, we've seen American coots. There's been a couple of species of duck, especially like the mallard duck. We saw an egret when we were walking in. So birding is actually a really exciting way that you can do citizen science.
What is citizen science? So
citizen science is, as a person without any sort of science background, without a science degree, or even people with science degrees like us, you can contribute to our knowledge of our understanding of the world around us.
So you can be a scientist at home,
right?
Or in your classroom.
Absolutely. So birding is a really good way to do that. You get outdoors, you get some exercise. If you're in the middle of the city or if you're out in the country, you can do this. And so all you have to do is go out on your patio or go out to a park if it's safe with your parents, with your class. And all you have to do is make observations like a good scientist. So you make observations about the weather. You make observations about organisms that you see. So we can hear birds chirping in the trees around us. We can see birds swimming in the ponds around us. And so you make observations of what birds you see. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow, which is October 9th, in case you're watching this video later, is the Cornell Labs Big Day. And so what a big day is in birding is when you try to see as many birds as you can. And Cornell Labs has a free app. It's called eBird app. So you can download this app for free, or you can just report it to the eBird website.
And Ralph will add this into the links to this video too. So visit these websites where you can be a scientist too. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you're good. And so what you do is you go out, you make observations of the birds you see. And on these websites, there's also guides to tell you what the birds you're looking at is, because you're probably not experts in birds. Maybe some of you are. And so you can make identifications of your birds, make a list of how many you see, how long you were observing, and then you submit it. And what the scientists do is they compile all that data to see how bird species are doing. Lots of migratory birds are actually not doing really well right now. So they're migrating across country boundaries. Birds don't care if they're in the United States or Mexico or Guatemala. They couldn't care less. They're just doing their thing. And so this helps scientists tell how the birds are doing by how many they actually observe. Our family bird book actually.
Right. So let's go back to like the very basics. So you guys can be scientists maybe tomorrow to help out. So this is no matter where you are in the world. It doesn't have to be in North America. So first thing you want to do is get like a book or printout. So Ralph was also include a Southern Nevada printout you can find in your backyard. Here there's a printout that they gave us at this preserve. So wherever you are locally, get a bird book, maybe find another bird preserve towards you, and you'll have a list of birds. So here's our North American birds. So for those that are not in North America, this would not be the correct book, but I'm sure you could find one in your bookstore or library and it has all the different birds in there. So when you're birding, the first thing you're gonna want is a really good set of eyes, or what else?
A good pair of binoculars helps as well. So even if you get an inexpensive pair from, say, like a camping store or something like that, that'll help. If you really get into it, probably get something a little bit higher end.
All right, so first thing you wanna do, if you see a bird in the distance, you wanna demonstrate, you're gonna look off with binoculars, and you're gonna look at identifiable features, something that stands out. The shape of its beak, colors on its breast, or it's on its wings, on its head. And you use those details, and it takes a little practice to get, because birds are fast. You have to get your observation skills going, and then you're gonna use your book like an encyclopedia to look at. And there's ranges, so you're gonna make sure you're in the right range for where you're living. So if it's out of the state you live in, or out of the range where you're living or looking, it's not gonna be that bird. And then you're gonna look at the pictures, see if it gets close. And then there's also descriptions. Talks about the way that they behave, maybe the sounds they make. And it's a really fun way to be involved in science. So then you can report these birds on this app, and it's a big world bird count day. That's what the big day is.
Yep. And so you can contribute to this big count as a class or as an individual. And even if you can't do this on Saturday, you can make observations any given day and submit your observations to the app. And so it's just a good way to contribute to science and do your part.
And besides that, it's fun. So this is our book. You can tell it's been beat up. What we do, since we travel the state of Nevada, we bring our book everywhere we go, keep it in the car. And so when we see a bird, see, I have a pen in here, so I have a feeling. So just recently, we traveled to California, Newport Beach, and we were able to mark. So then I put the little date and where we were when we got to see the bird. So that's kind of a fun way. It's kind of a record of where you've been and what you've seen. So you can be a scientist even on vacation.
And so I guess just to bring it full circle, we are here. This is one of the hot spots for birding in southern Nevada because there's water. So the water brings in the animals. It's a resource for these migrating birds, whether they're going north or south. But this is also still an active water treatment facility. And so to this day, this is still an active area. All these ponds behind us are treating the water so that it can be repurposed, like we mentioned at the start of the program. But in 1998, it was actually a cooperative effort between the Red Rock Audubon Society and the city of Henderson to designate this as a bird preserve as well. So even though the birds are really happy around here, they get to hang out in the ponds, they get to nest, they get their resources, this facility is still serving a very vital function to water in southern Nevada. And so our ability to recycle that water, reuse that water is still being done here. And so what happened is that when this facility was built without birds in mind, and so as they have to pump the water down, they have to pump the water up, it was disturbing some of the birds when they were migrating through. And so this agreement between the Audubon Society and the city of Henderson is that they can time now when they have to drain the ponds to not coincide when birds are migrating through. And so it's a really cool agreement between a city and between a conservation group that both functions can be used now. So water recycling, water treatment, and the birds get to migrate through without any harm, and they get to use this facility. Again, the third biggest body of water is a water treatment facility here in southern Nevada.
So as not just for birds, but you can help also with here in the Southwest in America, we're going through a really bad drought. So whether it's California, Nevada, we all kind of share the same water, right? We have the Hoover Dam, which we have Lake Mead, which we all gather a lot of water from. It's really important to say, maybe you live out in the Rockies and you seem like you have a little bit more water, but all that water eventually comes down. So it's important to be little conservationists yourself. So I know you probably heard it, turning off water when you don't need it, being mindful of your water usage, because it is very, very important. We all, as animals and species of this earth, need water. And just a reminder that it doesn't just affect humans, but it affects our whole ecosystem. So humans are a part of the ecosystem too. So we have to take care of, where we live and our neighbors too. It's just not here in Nevada, but in California, Arizona, Utah, we all share the same water. So we'll take some questions.
Absolutely.
We'll take some questions either about birding, how to become a citizen science, anything about water. If you want to talk dinosaurs, we're always down for that too.
Absolutely. We have an awesome question from Pinecrest, Nevada, Horizon Campus, Miss Wallace. Miss Wallace, I'm going to unmute you to where you can ask your question. This was a very specific question. She's a bit outdoorsy, so she knows a little bit about birds. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. So we had a bird hit our classroom window. It almost looked like a parrot. It was emerald green. And we kind of narrowed it down by doing what you taught us, being scientists in class. And we found it might have been a Wilson warbler with a bright yellow head and a blue dot on top. Do you know any interesting facts you could share with our class about this bird? It was able to become unstunned, and we let it back into the wild. But it was a cute little bird we wanted to know more about.
Oh, okay. Becky's looking it up right now. But just as a side while she's looking up your bird and great job getting that rescued and getting it back. Bird strikes on windows is actually a huge issue for migratory birds because they can't see the glass. And so thousands, if not tens of thousands of birds are killed every year just flying into windows like that. So let's see. We're pulling it up. Greenish.
Oh, greenish.
And while you look that up, so what I did was I put some gloves on, and then it's important that we don't have our scent. Is that a true fact when we're rescuing birds?
What was that?
I put gloves on because I heard somewhere you don't want your scent to get on the animals that are wild. Do you know more about that?
The scent's most important for juvenile birds because they use scent as an impression on their parents, so they know that they're safe and how they identify them. For grown birds, it's not necessarily as important the scent, but it's more important that the oils on their feathers don't get disturbed by the oils on your fingers. And so you're totally right to put on gloves for that, for helping the bird out.
Good job, scientists. Good job.
We're not seeing your warbler in our book.
That's okay.
Okay. So the best, also another identifying is besides it look, some of those birds look very close together as far as their appearance. Sometimes it's tricky for us too. Is getting more clues. Like I know it was stunned, so it wasn't singing, but if you ever see it again, there's the sound that they make. Those will be in these books too, and those are sometimes the deal breaker as far as what you decide on what it is.
Absolutely. And we shared in the chat comments a link for the Google Drive folder for the Virtual Field Trips Bird Preserve, which has a bird checklist, backyard birding, and links about birding that Becky had sent my way. Some of the students want to know, this is along the lines of like where you guys are at right now. Specifically, what kind of birds do you guys encounter there at the preserve?
Just this morning, we saw a snowy egret. So that's kind of a tall white bird with long stilty legs and a long black pointy beak. They're fish eaters. And so they pluck little minnows and fish and reptiles and mice out of the foliage. We've seen mallards, American coots. There was some Canada geese that flew over just a little bit ago. And on the trail below us, we're up on a platform right now. Actually saw some, I think they're called Gambel's quail run across the road as well. So there's ground birds, there's water birds, and there's a couple nesting platforms for raptors as well. So not velociraptors or anything like that, but more like hawks and eagles out here as well.
Absolutely. Ms. Galante's fourth grade class wanted to know specifically where in Nevada do we get our drinking water?
So drinking water in Nevada comes from, like Becky said at the start, from two sources. So if you're in places like Fallon, they pump water out of the ground. So there's a big aquifer that they pump it out of. And most municipalities across Nevada, they pump it either out of limestone or they pump it out of lava rock. The other source of drinking water, other than groundwater, is surface water. So if you're in the Reno area, your water comes from the Truckee River. If you're here in Las Vegas, Henderson area, you get most of your drinking water from the Colorado River. And so that's surface water. So where water's coming out, coming from somewhere else and just happens to be passing through your geographic area.
Absolutely. And there's one of the students, I think they're in California, they wanted to know specifically, what is each of your favorite birds?
I will have to say, I really enjoy seeing the mountain bluebird. So that is our state bird here in Nevada. It's a small little bluebird, and I find it more often up in northern Nevada. And I don't know, it just kind of gives me like a warm feeling because I know I'm home in Nevada. It's a pretty bird, and it just kind of gives me good feels.
I really like great blue herons just because they're tall. They can get up to like 3 feet tall. They look like dinosaurs. And when they're flying across the sky, you'd think like they're like a pterosaur or something squawking along.
Maybe you can share the quick story about our camping trip.
Oh, yeah. We were camping one time at La Honte Reservoir, which is between Fallon and Reno. And
we found a really nice shady spot under a big willow tree.
It turns out it was a heron nest up above. And so in the middle of the night, the herons weren't too happy we were there. They were squawking really loud. They sounded like dinosaurs, keeping us up all night. And when we woke up in the morning, they had relieved themselves all over our car.
They bombed us.
Yeah, that seems to be an issue, especially with migrating birds out here. We get pigeons and all kinds of stuff. So one of the students that are in Florida, they wanted to know how does identifying birds help the bird population?
So it helps the bird populations by letting scientists know how the population is doing. So if lots of you school groups or lots of you citizen scientists are out there reporting seeing certain types of birds, that data goes to the ornithologists, which are scientists that specifically study birds, and lets them know like, okay, there's lots of these birds are coming through this particular area at this time. The population must be okay. If there's a type of bird that should be coming through and they're not, or they're not being reported very much, that's a red flag for the ornithologist. So they can go to follow their migration route, see what the problem is, see what maybe they're getting into poisons, maybe there was a weather event that knocked out a flock of them. It can help us conserve those populations by letting us know how they're doing.
So there's lots of birds and there's lots of people. So it adds to the data. So more data you have as a scientist, the better, more accurate it is. So just like that video that we showed of migrating robins, they cannot, put that together without the information. And so that it takes citizen scientists to put together those graphics so we can see how the birds, where they're traveling. Maybe their migration routes are changing as, the landscape changes due to development. It helps them, it helps the scientists know how birds are doing.
We have students of all different ages from all over the world here on this, and we got some of the youngins want to know, what does the words man-made mean?
So man-made is not naturally occurring, right? So you can have a pond or a lake that maybe 20,000 years ago was carved out by a glacier and then filled back up with water. And man-made thing is not that it existed before a human had to, there was a human process to build it, like the Hoover Dam, one of the biggest dams here in North America, to hold back the water. So without that dam there would be no Lake Mead. So something like that, without the water treatment plant here. So they have different ponds, different holding ponds that are used at different processes during different process of the water treatment. So it moves from one pond to the next pond to the next pond. I think they're saying there's what, nine ponds here, and they all have a different function. Yeah, thanks. Function. So here, this wouldn't exist. This is the third largest body of water here in southern Nevada. This wouldn't exist if there wasn't a person or humans that intervened and created this.
Absolutely. We have a question from Miss Strub's class, and they want to know if you guys have ever seen any endangered birds in all of your travels and studies.
Yeah, we've seen endangered birds. So lots of the raptorial birds like eagles are either threatened or endangered, and so we've seen those in our travels. Certainly, lots of some of the water birds are also endangered, and so those have been encountered as well that we've observed.
I've seen a California condor, but over in California, up in the Big Sur area, and they actually are now more recovering birds, and they are now nesting in Zion National Park, which is one state over, up in over in Utah. So they've been seen nesting there too.
And Miss Bolt, we'll go with a few more questions and we'll let you guys go. And we know that students have dinner or lunch wherever they're at in the world tuning in from. But Miss Bolter's class right here in Nevada, they want to know which birds make the loudest noises or loud noises.
Which birds make the loudest noises? Like we were talking about, we were camping under that heron nest. That was really loud in the middle of the night. Probably the loudest birds that we've heard out here this morning here in southern Nevada. Were probably the Canada geese that came honking over just a little bit ago. You can hear those from a long ways off. They're loud honking sounds. And those were actually on the endangered list a couple decades ago. It's actually a really positive conservation story that their population numbers have completely rebounded. And now you find them all across North America again.
So definitely check out the websites that we're going to share again in the chat, and definitely check out more of the Nevada Science Center. Their website is also in the chat and it'll be linked in the video. We want to thank everyone for participating today, and we will go with a couple more questions. They wanted to know, is there a specific place where they can go to find a falcon?
Falcons? Prairie falcons and peregrine falcons actually have a continent-wide distribution if you're in North America. So anywhere you're at, you can potentially see one. Places where you're more likely than not to see a prairie falcon or a peregrine falcon are going to be in open spaces. So if you're like in a big field area, they like to eat mice, they like to eat rabbits. And so if you're in areas that have lots of mice, lots of rabbits, those are going to be your best bets for actually seeing falcons.
Well, I didn't know if they went to a specific restaurant or something altogether that you could
so
tell us.
that again is gonna, if you pick up one of these bird books, it's gonna give you the range. So if you're really looking forward to seeing a certain type of bird, you can see, where in the range it is, or what species of that type of bird.
And so I'm guessing these are from fifth grade boys. I used to be a fifth grade teacher. They want to know, what are the most dangerous birds out there?
The most dangerous bird.
Like to other birds?
I guess
don't know.
in general.
Owls are pretty cool. I think owls are cool just because they hunt at night. And they're a predator. I think their hunting skills are, I would say an owl. I think an owl is pretty, in my opinion, is one of my favorites.
I got attacked by an angry raven one time, so I'll go with that.
Mockingbirds got my dog once. He got into their nest.
That is terrifying. I saw an owl out here in Nevada, and I thought it was a dog with wings. It was
They're
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're out hiking in a canyon, and they're hiding out during the day, and you walk through, and all of a sudden, it's happened to me a few times, and then all of a sudden they just fly out from the canyon wall. It's kind of like, what was that?
Absolutely. Okay, before we let you guys go, Becky or Josh, can you guys tell us a little bit about some of the exciting things on the horizon for the Nevada Science Center?
Okay, so great. If you're not from Southern Nevada, first of all, we have National Fossil Day here in America. So a lot of different places are doing their events for Fossil Day. So next week, October 13th is Fossil Day. We'll be doing a couple different virtual field trips to show off Nevada's first dinosaur. So me and Josh, about a couple weeks ago, we presented Nevada's first dinosaur species that we researched or discovered and researched here in Nevada. So we'll be talking a little bit about Nevada dinosaurs and Nevada's first dinosaur. We'll also have our doors open at our Science Center in downtown Henderson, Nevada. So you can always stop on by. We actually are just open to the public now. So we have our displays of fossils in there. And check out our website and social media, and stay tuned with different email updates if you're interested in learning more about the Science Center.